Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston podcast network. Hoping you're still listening. Celtics are in a rough patch, so we're going to help you kind of navigate through it. And maybe to help give you some hope on the other side, Celtics president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens, met with reporters for the first time pretty much this season. Obviously, he spoke about the Ime scandal right before the start of training camp. But this is his first sort of address of how things are going. I think it was notable that Brad wanted to talk as the Celtics start going through their first rough patch. Didn't want to talk when they were flying high. And I think he wanted to offer a vote of confidence, as you'll hear, to Joe Mazzulla and to really the roster as a whole, that we've seen good glimpses from this team and that good teams sometimes go through this. So we're going to play that entire 12-minute conversation with Brad. Also on the back end of this, we're going to catch up with Malcolm Brogdon. Got a chance to sit down with him for Celtics Post Up earlier this week. Wanted to play that as well. Thought it was interesting, just Malcolm's thoughts about his first couple months here in Boston, trying to get this team back on track, and some off-the-court stuff about singing Encanto songs and what he does in his spare time. But let's start with Brad Stevens. Let's get into that audio. I want you to hear it first, and then we'll kind of react on the backside. Here's Brad this morning at Celtics Shoot-Around.
Questions for Brad? None. Brad, thanks, Brad. Yeah, I'm cool with it. What's the conversation like in terms of like Joe's status, and will he remain interim all year until everything's situated? How does that situation go?
We haven't really even talked about it recently. Our focus has been on how to make this team and staff and give everything we need to make sure we're as good as we can be. He's running the show. Title is the title, but and we'll have updates at a later date on all that other stuff. But he's doing a good job, and he's running it like the head coach runs it.
What advice do you give him about the roller coaster of your fan base?
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I think that one of the things that you have the benefit of in the seat I'm in now is getting a much more macro view of everything, and I just think that when you're in it, every play sits with you, every moment of a game sits with you, the losses sit with you. In a big way, you rehash all of those singular moments, and to be able to then look at a film objectively and kind of take the emotion out of it, it's tough. I mean, and that's why coaching in any league or any level is hard, but coaching in the NBA with 82 games and inevitable ups and downs is a really challenging job. So I want him to know, I want our staff to know that I get it. I've lived it. And when you have a 3-game blip like we have right now, where we haven't played very well, or a 2-week, deal where we haven't played very well, I've seen a lot of good to great teams do that. And so the key is how do you respond to that, and how do you, as a staff, maintain the right approach as you're trying to make small tweaks and fix it.
From your view, is there a reason why you've hit a little bit of a rough patch?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the easiest thing in the world to do is point to shooting variance, and I don't look at the game that way. I think it's we've got to find a way, as a team to improve, because as the year goes on, right, if you stop trying to improve, that's the day you stop being good, right? And if you don't continuously get better, it's just so easy to get caught. And so we've got to improve on both ends. We've done a better job defensively. I think we've added, quite a bit of options from a coverage standpoint, which I think has been a real positive and may come with some growing pains in the near term, but is really, really important as you get later on in the year. And then offensively, I just think we've got to do our best to generate easier shots, right? And I'm not saying the wide open catch and shoot threes, we'll take those all day long, but there are ways to, without making it more difficult on ourselves, to get another layup a half. And really that's usually what it boils down to, right? And so this isn't rocket science, but I think that from my perspective, the last 2 weeks, we've looked a little bit more, we just look like we're in a little bit of a rut. And so we just need to play ourselves out of that, and make sure we don't have halves like we had the other night in that first half. That was a rough one.
I know you guys are very excited about bringing Malcolm in his offseason. Just what are your thoughts on his impact so far through the first 2 months?
Yeah, Malcolm's been great. I have appreciated from day one his willingness to come off the bench. And not only his willingness, but embracing that, and coming in and doing what he does. Even in some of our losses, I've left really encouraged because of what he was able to provide for us when we were really struggling. And it just adds another dimension to us, I think. I think he's learning our defensive system, which is a little bit unique to maybe what he's played the majority of his career. But he's really smart, and that is something that will be easy for him. And then his ability to get into the paint. I mean, we need it. I just talked about easy baskets. We haven't been the best offensive rebounding team in the world. We haven't been great at turning people over yet this year, so we're not getting runouts, and we got to get some shots at the rim and some drives to get to the free throw line, and he's one of our better guys at doing that. So I'd say all in all, it's been really good, but he's really embraced being here, embraced what it means to be a Celtic, to play for a good team, and he's excited about it.
Right. Trade deadlines in less than 2 months. Will you be open to adding to this roster or giving this roster whatever it needs to compete for a championship?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's my job. I'm going to let when I was coaching, I always told the guys, let the game tell you what to do. Well, let the game tell us what to do over the next couple months, right? Just like any other thing, I've got to be able to take a step back. I've got to be able to sift through what's a blip and what's real. But yeah, listen, we want to win. There's no question about it. We have a really good team, and hopefully we are playing great over the next couple of months, but we'll evaluate that. We'll make decisions that, right or wrong, we think may give us the best chance to win.
I know you said Joe's running the show, but you're a pretty valuable resource to have in your position. What kind of conversations are you guys having? How often do you talk?
I mean, talk every day, but that's no different than I think any other GM-coach relationship. I think that, I'm same way I was last year. Not in every meeting, not in the film sessions. I'm at most practices, but not every practice. I'm doing the college scouting too, and doing all that stuff. I watch the game with a close eye, but I also understand that you have a million voices coming at you. It's hard. It's funny when I've coached for 8 years in the NBA, so even if I said something to one of our guys that was counter or a little bit off message, because I wasn't in the meeting and that's not what's being emphasized, and I'm no different than somebody on Twitter. It's like I'm just noise. And so I think you have to respect that how hard it is to coach. And so I hope that he looks at it as small, just small observations and support. And that's what I'm here to do.
You're kind of throwing into this right before training camp as a head coach. And how do you view and evaluate the job he's done so far?
Yeah, it's been really good. You're always, every 20 games you coach in the NBA, you double, you're just getting better and better and better. And just even looking at where we started from the start of training camp, the leadership, the organization, the way that everybody embraced him, he embraces everybody else, was very open to people, to the different ideas that they have. Maybe too open, right? At sometimes, right? Because there's a million of them coming in at once. But he's been great, and his staff's been great. I think that's something that probably doesn't get talked about enough. I think that, that was a unique thing for everybody, and the staff just came in and have done their job in adding to winning. And that's what we all have to do. Everybody in this building has a role. We all have to play it as well as we can to give ourselves a chance to win.
You said you have to decide what's a blip and what's real. How do you take a bird's eye view approach of what's going on, including the hot start, dealing without Rob, all the things that have gone on so far this season, where you guys are?
Well, I guess that's the benefit of being a coach. Whenever you have a hot start, you're just, oh, God, like this is, it's just like being up 20 in the first quarter, right? It is just part of it, right? There are ups and downs throughout a year. I think we've shown ourselves to be a very capable team. I think we're at our very best when the ball is flying around, which is not a surprise. And when we're really locked in and active into the ball on defense. And you can see that. I mean, you saw that the other day in the second half where we've looked like, and rightfully so, we needed to play with a sense of urgency because we were put ourselves in such a bind. But I think that ultimately, like, that's the way we can look and we can be really good. And the key is as you go through the down times, not to get down on yourself, not to lose confidence, and to just kind of recenter and say, this is how we're good. This is what makes us good, and go from there. And then, if we can't do that, then, we maybe look for tweaks that, hopefully, give our roster a better chance to maximize itself.
Joe's really talked about like trusting the team and say it's the players' team, doing things like not calling timeouts, letting them solve things themselves out there. That obviously works really well with things are rolling. But when you go through these ruts, like how do you see as a former coach in your position how he has to kind of adjust to prevent things from so long?
Yeah, I mean, he'll learn all that. Listen, you only get so many a game, and you're going to save 2 for the end of the game, or you're probably down 40, right? So like, ultimately, the other night we weren't going to win that game, or we weren't going to not be down a lot at halftime because of a timeout that was called, right? It was about, we gave up way too many layups. It was way too easy. All that stuff. And everybody knows that, right? And so he's going to learn how he wants to best manage the game. But I think it is important that he trusts his guys. And I think it is important that we are able to play through tough times, because that's inevitable. And I think that ultimately, you're right. It is a lot easier when you're in the middle of an 8-game win streak to do that than when your backs are against the wall a little bit. But he'll figure out what's best for him and what he thinks is best for our team, and I trust that he'll do that.
Final question.
From the macro view, when you look at this group, they tell us how close everybody is, and I feel like something we haven't seen a lot. Is it unique? And then just kind of what is making it
we've had
last so well?
We haven't hung one of those banners, but we've had a lot of close teams and a lot of good teams. This one has, as much camaraderie and togetherness as any I've been around, certainly at the professional level. And I think they really like each other. I think it's a really good character group. I see a lot of, when guys have a tough game, guys have a tough day, there's just a lot of support within this building for them. And I like that, right? I think it's, we're all going through a little bit of a blip. Some of us individually have had our struggles recently, on the court, and, but there's nothing but belief in each other. And, I think that our best players do a really good job of making sure everybody feels that way and feels appreciated. And that's a good thing.
Look no further than the award-winning 24 Auto Group. With over 2,600 vehicles in stock, the brands you love, backed by the savings and service you can count on. Visit today or shop online at 24autogroup.com.
We're kicking off fall with big savings at State Line Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Lease a new Ram 1500 for $369 a month during Ram Power Days.
Hurry in, and you'll be saying,
I got mine at State Line.
All right, a couple things I want to pluck out there from Brad. First off, again, there's only so much he can say about the Joe Mazzulla Ime situation, but I thought it was another sort of, hey, this is our guy. And the fact that I go back to it, that Brad wanted to come out on this day, your 3-game losing streak, 5 of your last 6. It was clear to me. It felt like Brad's chance to be like, all right, well, we're not going to panic that he's in that new role and kind of looks at things from the 10,000-foot view, and that there will be. I think the line was there'll be more details on titles and such down the road. And like, look, I think we all know it's there's some hurdles to go through with the Ime situation, and until that sort of reaches a finality, they can't really do anything with Joe except call him the interim coach. But unless the wheels really fall off here, and I know some Celtics fans are losing their mind about the way things have gone the last 2 weeks, but Joe has been thrown into a tough situation and really navigated the first part of this season well, and now his challenge is getting them out of this. And so good coaches gotta lead you through it, and we'll see if Joe can press the right buttons and get this thing back on track. I think that Brad, I wish you could say more in that instance, but one thing I do want to I think it's important to remind people in this instance too is that go rewind the tape to whatever it is, December 23rd, 2021. How were we feeling about this team? There were a lot of ups and downs before this thing took flight. A lot of people questioning Ime in that moment, and so I chuckle sometimes when I log on to Twitter and I see people saying, time to bring him back and put him in that head coaching role, and these guys aren't motivated the right way, and he's got to clear this thing up. Well, I remember some players only meetings back in November or maybe October of 2021. And Ime sort of had to find his voice. I think Joe's going through sort of the similar thing here where, while everyone says he's far more loud behind the scenes than we see maybe at the podium and a man of few words in those instances, that he is firm with these guys. And it's about finding your voice and being able to push them through these rough patches. I thought the other thing that was interesting about Brad's session was he was asked about the trade deadline coming up. And when I look at this roster, I think we've said it on this program before, I don't see a lot of opportunity to add because I think the team is so stacked with talent when it plays to its potential, right? And, so it would be hard to go get a guy that would maybe be the 9th or 10th man on this team when guys like Peyton Pritchard aren't even going to play, where Luke Cornett is going to fade to a little bit of a lesser role as Robert Williams works his way back in. So I think you're comfortable with the depth that you have, but you're always looking to upgrade this roster. And Brad said as much, right? Like it's his job to look around and see what's out there. But do you want to you've already spent 3 first-round picks to sort of cobble together this roster, one to go get Al, one to get Derek White, and then one to add Malcolm Brogdon this offseason. So, you can keep spending those picks, but is it someone that's going to help you long-term and make it worthwhile to spend what they have? Now, Celtics do have a whole bunch of traded player exceptions, disabled player exception. There's multiple pathways to adding a player. And I think I've said here that the most likely to me is probably to be a buyout addition, someone who, as teams start tanking and trying to get prime lottery position, maybe you get an experienced veteran wing that you can add to this roster that, much like Blake Griffin, knows that the role might not be hefty, but can help a team in a pinch, especially in like a high pressure playoff game. Like not everybody's ready for that. But I did like one thing Brad said in this instance is that, when he was a coach, he always let the play dictate how things progressed. And he's pretty much saying the same thing in this instance. Okay, if Sam Hauser keeps slumping from beyond the three-point arc, maybe the Celtics need to make a move at that spot. If Derek White continues to slump, maybe they have to think harder about what their depth options are. I'm pretty confident in both those guys figuring it out. Like Derek White, it's almost jarring that he's going through it. I think one of the big reasons the Celtics have struggled the last 2 weeks is because Derek White has not been as good as he was at the start of the season. I think it almost flew under the radar when we were talking to B-Rob a couple weeks ago. We're doing like, who was the third all-star for this team? I think you can make a strong case for Marcus and for Derek White. And I think a lot of what Derek does flows below the radar. And so they got to get him back to feeling confident in his shot and being the analytics darling and making good things happen every time he's on the floor. Even my guy, Rob, I think he's played really well since coming back these 3 games. But they got to figure out how he works within in this whole thing, right? Like, how does the offense run differently with Rob out there? I'm eager for them to bump him up to the starting role, and we'll see if that happens soon. He did pop up on the injury list as questionable with an illness this morning. We'll see if he plays against the Timberwolves and like how they progress him moving forward. But my panic meter remains low. And look, I'll be the first one to overreact to good and to bad. I still think this team is a championship level team, and they've got some stuff to work through right now, and they've got to play harder, and they've got to not be complacent with the early season success. And I think that was one of the things Brad Stevens stressed as well. So big Christmas Day game coming up. Not to ignore the Timberwolves tonight, but it's just like I'm just ready for that next measuring stick against the Bucks. And I know you'd feel a lot better if the Celtics were coming in playing really well. And yet I think that's one of those games where you're going to get the best of the Celtics. You're going to get the best of the Bucks, and we'll find out. It feels like the Celtics and Bucks are maybe on another tier right now in the Eastern Conference. Well, time to go out there and show it and prove that maybe the last 2 weeks are not reflective of what this team is capable of. Before we get out of here, we'll be back after tonight's episode to recap that Timberwolves game. We'll be here on Christmas. Make sure you keep listening to those post-game pods. Want to leave you today with our chat with Malcolm Brogdon. Again, he's been a big part of he could be an even bigger part of where this season goes. I thought stick around to the end. I thought his last quote was his best quote. That's my journalistic tease here. As we start thinking about like the Celtics success and Malcolm part in it, and could he be in the 6th man of the year role? I think he had some interesting thoughts about his place in that conversation. All right, go like, subscribe. We'll see you again soon. Here's the Malcolm Brogdon interview.
I want to start with this. I'm not going to ask you a lot of basketball questions, but I do want to start here. This week, you got Indy, you got Milwaukee. Are there ever emotions when you're playing teams that you have relationships with?
Indy, I had, in both organizations, both cities, I had 3 great years where I got to know really good people. And I developed as a player, as a person in those cities. And my foundation was really in touch with those communities. So of course their emotions, of course, I still have relationships in those places. But it's about competing at the highest level.
What was that process like? I heard you say, from draft night and potential with the Wizards and thinking about that to sort of having a choice. Now that you've had time to process it, what was that experience like?
I think I ended up in a great situation in Boston. I didn't want to say that. But it's mixed emotion. I'm coming from a team in Indiana that we had good years, and there comes a time with most players in the NBA on most teams where it's time to move on, and it was my time. But Indiana really gave me a choice to not I won't say pick, but which team to really pursue a trade with, and they did right by me, and I'll never forget that. It's been a lot of mixed emotions. Leaving Milwaukee was mixed emotions. Leaving Indy, it was mixed emotions, but I'm in a good place.
What's the biggest thing that maybe you didn't know coming to this organization that you've learned here? What's been the biggest kind of takeaway from your first, what was it now, 6 months here?
It's a well-oiled machine. Just for continuity that it sort of functions at. Nothing's really disrupted. Guy goes down, the next guy fills in. Everybody seems to be in, there's a hierarchy here. Everybody seems to sort of fall in line on the court, to the front office, everybody to, the nutrition staff. Everybody's in constant communication, which I really like. There are no drop balls anywhere, which is, it's really good environment for the players.
Take me off the court. You guys had a rare, I call it an off day. You still got to do probably film and then get your treatment and all that. But what's an off day for Malcolm Brogdon? Like, what do you do during your time away from basketball?
Well, I hang out with my family. I really just take time I will honestly watch a lot of basketball. It's hard to give your mind a rest when all you can think about is basketball. But I hang out with my family and hang out with my dogs.
I was going to say, so some of you guys play video games, some of them golf. Like, are your daughters, are they starting to get into stuff? Are they dragging you towards stuff? Like, 'cause, my kids would sit there with Instagram all day if I want.
I'm really just enjoying my daughter, taking her on walks, taking her to the park, playing nonstop in the house, and taking my dogs on walks and playing with them as well. So it's, I'm not working in the gym, but I'm working at home.
How old is your daughter? And what kind of dogs do you have?
I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I have a Doberman and a Shar-Pei.
Oof, all right. They're keeping you busy then. Is 2-year-old starting to gravitate towards anything TV wise? Are you watching Paw Patrol? Like what's going on the TV?
A lot of Coco Melon.
Yeah.
We watch Sing 2 a lot. We watch Frozen. There are a few of them. We Encanto. We watch those a lot.
So there was a stretch where Brad Stevens had to sing like Frozen for months when his daughter was going through that phase. So
I'm singing every song, Under the Sun. That my daughter she likes it. I'm singing it. So no, it's all good. It's all fun.
What's on Malcolm Brogdon's Christmas list?
Nothing really. It's time with my family. I just want time with my family. That's really it. In a chaotic season, every season is chaos. You just want time with your family. You want to be here for Christmas. Thankfully this team made it to the finals last year, so we're here on Christmas, and that's a blessing in itself. So that's really all I can ask for.
What was the best Christmas present you ever got as a kid?
I think I got an Xbox when the first Xbox came out. That was huge because that was like the next generation, the next like huge step of sort of gaming electronics.
Are you still into gaming, or are you just
Really?
Yeah. I mean, some of these guys take it on the road with them.
No. Some guys are serious with it. It fell off for me, man. Once you have kids or other things going on, man, you don't really have time.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What else do you like to do when you get away? Like, I mean, I know you traveled over the summer, you said, right? Like, how important is that stuff for you to just be out and about and especially helping people? I know how much you're involved with that.
Super important. For me, that stuff is more important than basketball. Traveling with my family is the most important thing to me, as well as helping people while I get to travel. Being able to experience different cultures, different people, and expose my daughter and my family to that's huge for me.
When you got here, you said that one of the things you were most looking forward to was playing with Al. What was that from? Was that from watching him on the Hawks as a kid? Yeah, and just
watching him in Atlanta, growing up in Atlanta, watching him, and just watching the way he conducts himself. He's just a class act. He's a classy guy, the ultimate pro. So it's been a pleasure playing with him.
What's it like going, again, I think you have an expectation being on the outside. What's it like when you go to these cities and there's Celtics fans everywhere? Is it weird how much this team travels?
It's not, I wouldn't say it's weird. It's awesome. It's shocking and surprising and awesome. These really are the best fans in the NBA. I've heard people say that, but you can't really fully experience it or enjoy it until you're a Celtic. So to see how many fans, sometimes it feels like they're half of the opposing arena is full with Celtics fans. So it's pretty amazing.
Your 3-point percentage was leading the league. I'd have to check, but pretty close. Like, what has been the difference for you this year? Is it just, are you getting that much more space because teams are playing you differently? Is that just the impact of playing on a good team?
Absolutely. I think it's really that simple. I'm not taking as many threes off the dribble. And teams aren't guarding me. I'm not the first option, so I don't get the first option attention, which makes my shots easy.
Just tell me about Joe. Like, again, you come into a situation, things change. What's it been like learning from Joe Mazzulla?
Man, I think he's been great. To step into the position he stepped in, sort of a chaotic situation, and to handle it the way he's handled it, I think he's been phenomenal. Of course, there's going to be a learning curve for him, which is expected, and a learning curve for the players learning from him and his new coaching style. I think he's been great. He's so detail-oriented. He's so communicative with the players. And, he's a process-oriented guy, in life and in, in how he coaches us.
And last thing, give me one teammate that either was completely opposite of what you thought before you got here, or like somebody that just jumped out. Like a lot of people get here and they're like, Grant talks as much as you think. Like what has jumped out about this locker room since you've been here?
I think Jason Tatum. He's really as humble and as good of a guy as they come, especially as a superstar. It's hard to find, superstars that are really as laid back and personable and classy as he is. And, he's a well-rounded guy.
Alad, one more thing. Do you think about six man at all? Like you were quick to embrace that role. Do you think about if this team is successful, if you played it the way you do, would that award mean something if you were in that conversation?
Look, for me, that's not important at all. Like I don't care about that award at all. I really want to win with this team. I came here to win a championship, to put up banner 18. And that accolade really means nothing. I want to win. I love it. That's going to get fans excited. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you.